Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make over a few items and we're going to start with this child's chair. So I feel like the blue and the stars are just not a popular look anymore. So I'm going to paint this one white. So I have to, for some reason, give this one 3 coats of the color cotton. And then once I let that dry well, then I do some light distressing on this with sandpaper, and then put a clear finish on it. And I just used Dixie Belle clear top coat, and it's a matte finish. So like I said, I let this dry and did a top coat on it, and now I'm going to be doing some stenciling. And this is the stencil that I'm going to use, and my friend Paula brought me a whole stack of Farmhouse stencils, and this was one that was in there. So I'm pretty sure she ordered them from Amazon and just ended up with some extras. But I'm not going to put this whole stencil on here. I'm just going to put the word Farmhouse and the wheat on the side. And I'm using just a makeup brush here because I'm stenciling with just a regular Stays On stamp pad. I just like the clean finish that it gives to stencil. So if I'm just stenciling something kind of small, and I'm going to be doing it in black, then I like to use a stamp pad. I've not been doing this long, but I really like the look that it gives. So once I get this stencil on the back of the chair, then I'm just going to stencil the wheat only on the front of the seat. So I just wanted a little something simple on the seat, and I just decided to do this wheat just on the front 2 corners, and I felt like that was enough to bring it together, but not overdo it. And then the next item that I'm going to be doing is a canister set that I thrifted. And I like the look of this, but it isn't real bronze. It just has that bronze look, but it's a little too modern for me. So because I want to keep this food safe, and I do like this bronze color, I'm going to leave just the lids bronze and the inside. So I have that rim around the top there that I can start right underneath that with the white, and that'll give me a good starting point and give it a clean finish. So I'm giving this again 3 coats of the color cotton. I don't know what it is about this, because usually cotton will cover really well for me in the Dixie Belle. But this particular jar of paint, I don't know if it didn't get enough pigment in it or what, but I had to do 3 coats. And like I said, I'll leave that from the rim and inside the bronze color so that I can keep it food safe. But here I started to paint the rim also, and this is where I realized that was a good stopping point for me, so I cleaned that off. And then I just started just below that rim. So like I said, I just give this 3 coats of the color cotton, and then once it dries well, then I do the Dixie Belle top coat on this, which is a clear matte finish. But obviously you could use any top coat you wanted. A lot of times I'll use a Rust-Oleum clear matte spray or a Krylon. But this chalk paint does need to be sealed. So once I give this 2 coats and let it dry and seal it, then it's ready for the next step. And I'm going to be putting a stamp on these. And the stamp set that I'm using here is called Crockery Stamp. And I think that's an IOD stamp. It's one that I use very often because it works really well for jars and canisters and anything kitchen related. So I use these a lot. And I've had a few ask if you're starting out as a crafter, what items do I recommend, and I'm gonna try to put a video together for that, but this set is definitely one that I would start with. Actually, this one and the Icy Paris stamp. I use both of those very often, and there's a few more that I use a lot, but that this definitely will be one that I'll put in that video when I get a chance to do it. And this stays on ink is also something that I recommend because it stays on really well. It's not bad to smear. You can just wait a short time after you stamp it on, and you can clear coat over the top of it and don't have to worry about it, the color running. But as you can see, it fits really well onto these canisters. And I love how they turned out because I didn't have to paint the lids. I was able to keep the seal that was on them. And like I said, they're food safe because I didn't paint the inside. But I really like how they turned out. And then the next item that we're going to make over is just a little tray. And this was just a simple wooden tray, not in the best of condition, but it is solid. So it has some paint on the back, and I'm going to just paint the back also. So this is going to be also in the color cotton, and again 3 coats on this. This could be hung, but I'm just painting it as a tray because I'm going to display it lengthwise rather than up and down like this. So I give this 3 coats of the color cotton, and then I give this some distress, and then with some sandpaper, and put a clear coat on this one. This particular tray was made where it could hang, but I'm going to put a stencil on this one, and I'm going to the way that I'm putting the stencil on, it's not going to hang with that hanger that they have. Now, you could always add a hanger on the other side and hang this from side to side, but the hanger that is on it is not going to work for the way I'm doing this because I'm going to do a more of a landscape stencil instead of being a taller one, if that makes sense. But like I said, I gave this 3 coats, and once I have my top coat on it, then I'm going to be putting a stencil on this. And the stencil that I've chosen for this one is another one of those that my friend Paula brought me. She brought me several, and lots of Farmhouse ones, so I'm just going to use parts of this one. So I'll use the kitchen here on the top, and I'm going to use that same technique with the stays on ink, and then I'll move the bottom of the stencil to the bottom of the tray, if that makes sense. And with the stencil set up like this, then when you have something on the tray, you can still see the stencil. So but it also helped me to distribute this and make it look more uniform on this tray, I think. And I think I kept all of these items kind of simple, but it made a big difference, and it definitely gave them more of a farmhouse style look. And now, like I promised before, I'm going to be doing a craft for Christmas at the end of each of my videos for a while. So if you don't want to see that, then you can stop here. But if you're in the mood for Christmas, or you need to work on your items for your booth, or even to decorate in your home, then continue to watch. So what we're going to be making today for Christmas is a book Christmas tree. So I know you guys have seen these made. I have never made one. But this is how they fold them. So I've slowed this down here so you can see how they fold. And so you're going to take the cover off any book, and then you're going to fold the top corner down all the way over to the spine. And that's going to be too fat for a tree, so you fold the bottom corner up to that fold. And then you fold the end of it to the spine, if that makes sense. And that makes the size of your tree and the shape of your tree. Now, the ones I've seen done, they fold them and they leave the fold folded. So that will, I guess, bulk up your tree and make it fuller. But what I don't like about that is that it just gives your tree too neat of a look. So what I'm going to do is cut my pages just like I do when I make the book pumpkin. And I'm using a utility knife for this and a ruler. So I just put my ruler on that line, and then I can cut against that ruler, and I just feel like it's safer. Once you get so far with these, you can remove that ruler. I probably could have done it before I did, but it just kind of helps you keep your knife straight. And I feel like it's a little bit safer also. But I just keep cutting, and it'll cut a few at a time until you get the whole thing removed. And you can save these papers to do some decoupage with, but we're not going to be using them for this one. So once I get all these cut and removed, and it doesn't take that long because you just have one straight cut. Now when I do the pumpkins, and I did a video with that this early fall, they were a little harder to cut because you've got that curve to cut, but these were very simple. Then once we got all that cut, or I get all that cut, I start to slice down the spine some. And I do that so it makes it more flexible, and it's a lot easier to glue together to make the tree. But I did cut some of these pages loose in doing this, and that's fine because I just take some cloth tape for that you use for bandaging, and just tape those together when I come to an area that I've cut too much on. But I think it is really necessary to do the slicing down the spine. It makes it a lot more flexible. But once I get all this cut, then I take each individual page, and I know that seems like a lot. It really didn't take me very long. But there's one that I had cut and loose, and like I said, I just take some tape. I started to hot glue it, and I decided I wanted it to be more flexible, so I took some cloth tape and just went down that seam, and that fixed the problem. But like I said, once I got this cut, then I just kept crumpling my pages until I felt like it was full enough. And it doesn't take long, but it is a good idea to crumple every page because we're not keeping that fold in them. And I want this to have more of a rustic, more ragged effect, and I just feel like it looks more like a tree that way. So that's what I did differently with this one. I actually cut the pages and crumpled them. So once I got all these crumpled and fixed the parts of the spine that needed repaired, then it was ready for the next step. And then for the next step, I'm going to be adding some lace. And I know that's kind of an odd thing to put with this, but I like to give this a shabby chic look, and I felt like adding some lace was the right way to go, and it also adds some fullness. So I trim my tree where I feel like it needs it, and I almost added some slits in the pages, but I felt like the next step that I'm doing would add enough to where I wouldn't have to do that. So I decided not to do that. And here I am cutting some sections from lace, and you can use any lace here. I happen to be using some type of ribbon that I thrifted, but you can take an old curtain panel and cut that up. What you want here is just some dimension added. So I just take some little sections of this lace, and I just add some hot glue and just stuff them back into the tree. And you're kind of just going for whatever you think looks good. I'm not trying to be precise in how I put that in. I'm just stuffing it in. And so what I do is I just add some hot glue back inside the tree and stuff some of that lace, and then I keep repeating that process. And I don't know how I missed that footage, but honestly all that I did was put some hot glue back inside and stuff a piece of lace, and I just kept doing that until I got the fullness and the look that I wanted. And as you can see here, I'm just taking some of my distress ink and giving this a little more distress. I wish I had gotten the video of the lace being inserted, but I don't know what happened to it. I thought I was recording it, but it's gone. So those were about 2 to 3 inch sections of lace, and like I said, I just put some hot glue back inside it and then stuffed a piece of lace and just kept doing that all around wherever I felt like it needed it for balance. And then to make sure that my tree stays together well, then I just cut the center from a paper plate so that I had a small circle to glue on the bottom, and that'll just kind of keep those pages spread better. And then I glued this little rusty star to the top, and then added some, wiped some gilding wax on it. So I had this gold gilding wax, and once I got this glued on well, then I just took my finger and wiped some of that gilding wax on both the front and back of the star. And I didn't worry about full coverage because I do like more of an antique look, but I wanted to brighten that star up and make it go with the tree better. And then I decided I wanted a trunk, so I thrifted this little candlestick, and I'm just going to glue that right on top. Now, I don't know how long this is going to hold with this glass. It seemed like it dried and held really good, but I'm putting plenty of glue here, and I cleaned the top of that candlestick well and then glued it right to the top. But, you know, worst case scenario, it doesn't stay on and it has to be glued back, but I don't think that's a big deal. But I think it's going to hold. So I just glued it to the center of that paper plate, and then my tree is complete. And I think these would be really neat if you used a smaller book and also a larger book and did 3 different sizes. I think that they would display together. I think a lot of items display better in 3s, but that's just an option. And I also thought about brushing some glue in places on my tree and adding some very fine gold glitter, or you could add silver to your tree instead of gold like I did. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.